Hi, and welcome to another movement session. Thank you for joining me here. This morning, I'm greeting the sunrise on the island of Isola Elba, just off the Tuscan mainland in Italy. Very grateful to have gotten out of bed early to make this recording for myself, but mostly as an example of an easy movement session for you. Here, we're just going to go through a basic preparation, couple movements to get us more awake or unstuck, and we'll work through some semi-sequences, so quick lines of motion that works our overall body, focusing on mobility, a bit of core strength, and a bit of awareness. So take a moment to focus on your breath and bring some presence to your session. And here, another moment to see if there's anything that you need to mobilize in the neck, the wrist, the shoulders, anything that calls to you. We move into our first preparation. I'm going to go into a tabletop here on hands and knees and choose any direction to go in broad circles, having the wrists, elbows, shoulders relatively in line. Using this as our first check-in. Change direction there. Make this as big or small as you need. Then we change our hands into our hands facing outwards, fingers outwards. And then just shifting side to side, keeping the arms locked straight, focusing on getting some shoulder blade motion. Just bringing a bit of lubrication to the wrists, always important. So you can shake them, roll them, bring a bit of energy towards them. We go to our next posture here. So with our hands and knees still in the tabletop posture, we're going to go through some cat-cows or spinal flexion extensions. So moving, rounding our backs, opening our rib cage, and going forward and back. Any pace that works for you, there's no set number here. Bring some more intention to your breath here. If you can, try and do all of this nasally. And then we change over to our next position. Simply take a seat, cross-legged if that works for you, and we're going to shift side to side. So place one hand to the ground, the other one across the way, just creating our first bit of spinal twists. Next, we change to cross over our legs, placing one leg over the other, and what we're going to do is just twist into one with a bit of help from our own arms, keeping the legs in the same position, rotating the other way, and just pushing that knee down gently. This is primarily for the hips and the spine. Go at an easy pace, nothing too crazy. Switch the legs over, and again, using the assistance of our own arms and hands, we add to the twist, turn the other way, and open the hip a bit more. Next, we go onto our backs and get ready for some bridging maneuvers to start bringing some energy to the glutes, the hamstrings. Same thing here, there's no assigned number of reps, just go up and down a couple times. Plant those feet firmly, squeeze the butt. You can push into the arms as well if it helps. And what we're going for here is starting to get a bit more connection between glutes and our spines and hip motions. All of this still preparing us for slightly bigger movements coming. Finish off your last one there. Right, and we change over to the next position here. Let's get a bit more waves through the spine. So from a high plank position here, we're going to activate our shoulder blades with a bit of a press. So keep your elbows locked and brace the core to shift up and down. And this will initiate our first spine wave into essentially a down dog. The main priority here is to make a spine wave, so shifting our weight back through our hips to the top, bit of a hamstring stretch, backline stretch, then tucking the tailbone, making our way through to the front, and then having a bit of a shoulder blade press, just cycling back and forth between those two. So we're just teaching that shoulder blade spine hip relationship, super underrated. You can also use this as an opportunity to get your ankles a bit more mobilized, so walk it out if you need. It doesn't have to look precisely like mine, especially if it's first thing in the morning for you. We'll do one more there and finish that posture. Next, we shift into our first split stance, our hip opener, with the left leg towards the outside near the hand. All we're doing here is making some undefined circular shapes to investigate the hips. Still taking it super mellow and at your own pace. Change over to the other side. Can't let the right leg get jealous. Pay attention to see if there's any differences. How do your hips feel? How do the muscles react? If you need to stay there a bit longer at any pace that works for you, it's up to you. And when I kneel here and get my arms overhead, the focus here is just to expand the rib cage a bit, stretch out the lat muscles or the upper back in general as we get into the next part of our session. So these moves will be a little bit more specific. We're going to get more into particular areas with a bit more tension. Set up from a low squat, and what you'll see here is I place one leg ahead of the other one with my arm inside the knee, and all I'm doing is driving that right knee outwards, focusing on the groin and opening up the hip joint. Do a couple times there. On that last rep, hold it for a bit, switch over, make sure you do both sides, so roughly 4 or 5 pushes, lean into it with your mass, and hold that last position for a little bit. We're going to work into some low postures here, so it's always worthwhile checking with the hips, getting the core more engaged. And sticking with this low squat theme, go into the full squat if you are able to, and with both elbows on the inside of the legs, pushing the palms together as best you can. Same idea, a couple presses and then a hold at the end. Of course, if you can't get into these low positions or end range postures, use anything that assists you. Next, we turn into a kneeling position with our toes tucked. And what I'm doing here is leaning back with a priority of opening up the chest and the shoulders, starting relatively passively, and we're going to work into a bit of motion. Again, if this is too uncomfortable, come out of it, shake loose if you need. You can see there's actually quite a lot of little bugs flying around that may not be noticeable. It's in the peak of summer here on this island. It's warmer than it seems. So the priority here is just to synchronize a little bit more of our breathing with the spine motion and opening up the chest. Alright, gradually shift out of there. And we're going to start going to a bit more energy here with some more sequencing. Starting with on our bellies. We're going to push through the ground into an upwards dog-like position. Re-engage that spine wave into a down dog and step into that open stance like we did before. See, there's always a method to the madness there, bringing all these pieces together. Once that leg returns, we wave back down to the floor, and that's our sequence that we're going to repeat. So we go to the other side with the leg and continue. So I'll talk you through a couple times. Arch in the back, pushing up into a hip back position. One leg forward, open the hips, and roll down. We're going to repeat this a couple times. If you're not matching my pace, the general idea of this is just to build a bit of energy, but primarily just to mobilize the body as a total system. And we finish off the last 1 or 2 there. Right, we change over into a slightly more advanced low kneel position. So from a kneel, we're going to step out to a 45-degree angle or so, sort of forward and to the side. And we reach the opposing arm forward. So we're really opening up the hips, and we're engaging our spine in a slight twist. We're going to repeat on the same side a few times. Really reach forward, extend through every part of the shoulder, the arm, the hands, even to the fingertips, and allow those hips to soften a little bit. So here we're stretching parts that you may not even anticipate, sort of into the toes, the lateral aspects of the hip joints, as well as our spine in general. Change over to the other side, starting from a kneel, stepping out 45 degrees or so, and twisting into that forward reach. We don't spend a lot of time in these kinds of postures, so I like to add them into these sessions just to encourage a bit of low to ground motions. And yes, it's quite tough and quite sore on these pebbles on this very thin piece of picnic mat, but no worries. Alright, the next move, we just sit cross-legged and we place our hand or our forearm over to the side, and we lean over the same way with the goal of opening up and expanding the ribs, the lats. And again, if you're not matching my pace, go at any pace that suits you. We'll alternate for the next 10-20 seconds or so. A reminder to get as much in and out breath through your nose as possible. Finish off one more pair there. Just soften into the sides, expand that rib cage, facilitate deeper breaths. Right, from here we're going to go into a slightly more integrated sequence. So from seated, I'm going to lean over again, plant the hand, and facilitate a twist. So I'm going to pull that leg through from a wide split stance into essentially a three-legged dog or a backwards kick with the hand placed. You know, names are cool, but they don't have to be too specific. So we're alternating here from a wide seat, planting the foot and the opposite hand, pulling the leg through and reaching back. And again, slightly challenging on the pebbles, but I hope your mat or your surface is a bit smooth and a bit more helpful. As you get more and more into this motion, see if you can push into the floor, drive that heel back. Finish off your last one there. And we go into our next from a standing position here. What we do is we sort of collect our energy to our center. We squat down as best you can until our hands get to the floor. If you need to bend to the ground earlier, that's all good. If you can do a full squat, go for it. We crawl into a high plank. We do an alternating knee drive across the body towards opposite arms, and we just reverse the process. So we're combining a spine roll down and up. We're combining hip opening with a bit of a core activation. Take your time with this. Don't let the relative complexity of this sort of muddle the idea of breathing consistently. We're going to finish off one more like that. Bring that last bit of concentration to the quality of motion. And then unraveling that spine as we finish to the top. Great stuff. Okay, let's get a bit more fire in the legs and the body. So what we do is we step back with one foot and we open up our postures and we twist the other way as well, creating a nice strong spiral. Try to maintain your balance. Try to keep your hips, knees facing forward, a bit of stability. We do the one side a couple times here. And one last one there. Great stuff. Don't underestimate that one. Let's do the other side. So stepping back with the left leg this time, we reach with the right arm forward and we twist the entire upper body forward there. Step and twist, and like before, we want to extend as much as we can forward and back with the arms with a strong grounded leg posture. Do 2 more that side. There we go. Shake off the legs if you need. We're going to return to the floor. As this session is not particularly intense, it's more of a check-in and a greet the sunrise idea. Most of these motions are on the gentler side. Okay, so from our backs, we're going to perform an unloaded Turkish get-up, or just a way to get from lying down to standing. So we roll up, we place our hand next to us, hinge to the hips and take our leg and stand tall. Then we reverse the process, stepping back, leaning to the side, gently placing our butts and the rest of our body down. We're going to do this a couple times one way. There's quite a few moving parts to this, so if this is the first time you've done it, no worries. It is quite a well-known, in fact notorious maneuver, Turkish get-up. We're doing this without any weights, so it's a great body weight skill. And take your time to focus on the quality. And we're going to end off this side on the ground before we change over. Have you noticed the light coming out? It's getting a bit more orange and yellow in the sky. It's very beautiful. Right, make sure you do the other side. So whatever leg is bent is the arm that is vertical. It's the same. So in this case, I've got my left leg and left arm bent and ready up. We're going to repeat this motion a couple times this side. When I was editing this, I actually considered keeping the angle on me, but that person swimming behind there, I thought I'd give them some attention. It's actually a lady that was joining there on the side. Here I was thinking I'd be the only one up early, but these Italians, they take their swimming seriously. Let's finish off one more to the ground here. Well done. You can probably clearly see how the sun is peaked over the hills. I'll take the glare to provide that sunlight in the eyes. Right, we've done most of the cool stuff. We're going to wind down now for our movement session. So from a seated posture, just a cross-legged position, we're going to reach down to one way with our upper body and just gently go from one side to the other side. Of course, if you're planning on doing other modalities of training or moving after such a session, you should go for it. You don't have to do these parts because we are winding down this session now. So I hope that your breathing has remained relatively stable throughout this whole session. Next position, we go and set up a reverse tabletop. Got one more option here to open up the chest and engage the hip drive a bit more. We're going to do this around about 3 or 4 times and then hold the last position up there. Just that last bit of glute and hamstring squeeze and a shoulder stretch. Take a nice 1 or 2 quality breaths in that position before coming back to a seated posture, from where we'll wind down with some conscious breathing. This is a perfect opportunity for you to take a few more moments. If you would like to initiate some meditation practice, you may have maybe some mindfulness exercises, or of course just a great way to cool down and wind down that very light session. I hope that helped you feel a bit more energized, a bit more awake if it was the first thing, or a bit more ready for whatever's coming next. I'll see you very soon. Stay in motion. Thanks again.